You're listening to Mark of the Maker. Hey everybody, I'm Mark Steiner and you're listening to Mark the Maker. This is episode 72 of the show. I'm not really sure what we're going to call this one. Maybe we'll figure it out as we go. We're going to check in with everybody on the show here, talk about some things that have been happening lately, kind of a variety of things to talk about. So
cornucopia.
Seasonal reference. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Big word.
Yeah, very nice. All right, let's make sure we got everybody here. We have Mr. Tom Crine.
Hey guys, I'm here. Present.
We have Mr. Michael Birch.
Slowly raise his hand. Here.
And we have Mr. Sean Kendrick.
Hey ho, let's go.
That's his raring to go in the morning voice. We're recording this one in the morning, which we don't often do, but on occasion.
Was that a reference to me or Birch? That hey ho.
Hey ho.
Go.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
We'll let the listeners decide. All right. So, we have a lot of things to catch up on, and I apologize in advance. I have kind of a gunky sounding voice this morning. We went to this place last night for dinner. You guys probably have been to a place like this. I think they have them all over. It's like they bring you a 750-degree chunk of stone on a platter, and then a raw steak, and then you cook the steak yourself on this raging hot stone that holds heat forever.
I'm sure we have them, but I haven't found them.
I'd be down for that.
It's pretty legit. It's nice because it's like every piece of, kind of like you slice off the steak as it's sitting there, and you can finish it however you want, more well done, less well done kind of thing, and every bite of the steak is hot kind of thing. It's really, really nice, but there are a couple weird trade-offs. One, you reek of burnt flesh by the time you leave.
The bonus.
Yeah, so it's like, wow, okay. You have a strong smell by the time you leave there. There tends to be a lot of, there's fat and other things kind of burning off in your face, in everyone's face in the restaurant. So the floor is curiously slippery. I assume because of all the meat being cooked everywhere in the restaurant instead of in the kitchen. And then, something about it always leaves some gunky stuff in my throat. Probably the air is much less clear in that room than it looks like it is. So,
Have you ever heard of cooking like a steak on like a big block of Himalayan salt?
Oh, pink salt slab kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've never done it before, though.
I haven't either. It sounds really kind of fun.
Why?
It's actually supposed to season your meat while you cook it or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Huh.
My neighbor guy has some of those slabs, and he's cooked on them. He says he really likes it, but there's a bunch of extra steps, and I think you got to do the same thing. You got to preheat them really hot.
Yeah, you basically put them in your grill, I think.
Yeah.
My dumbass was thinking of like a salt block, like for deer. I'm like, why would you cook that on a chunk of salt?
Right. How does he even cook?
That's a salty ass steak.
Right. Yeah, not a salt block from the pasture.
Okay, makes more sense.
This is a glorious pink slab of salt from the Himalayas, Michael. It's much more. You have your Sherpa retrieve it for you.
Now, what you were talking about, is that like a Korean? Did that come from like a Korean thing?
No, you're thinking Korean barbecue, similar thing where you cook in the middle of the table on a little grill, I think. But
yeah,
I was wondering if that idea came from that. Like, we can
kind of a twist on the concept.
Yeah,
maybe.
Seems like I've seen some Japanese stuff where they're using hibachis for the same kind of thing too. Maybe it's cross-cultural.
Maybe so. There's like a little chain around here, not chain. Yeah, it's like a small chain. I would say there's 8 restaurants or something that do this. And so I thought, maybe this is kind of a unique thing. And then I was up at my dad's place. He lives up in the northeast coast of Michigan. And there's a little Italian restaurant in the middle of nowhere, surprisingly good little Italian restaurant in the middle of nowhere. And they do exactly the same thing. So I'm like, okay, well, it must not be terribly uncommon. I was surprised.
Well, awesome.
But it is pretty delicious. So if you guys come this way, we'll go there and do that because the food's excellent there.
I'm down.
but it left me gunky.
Hmm.
So recently was this Arts in Metal show, and Michael, you were the one maker from our crew here who was there. I came to kind of help out Steve Delac with the show and just kind of see the knives and see our friends and stuff. So that was nice. But you were in the fray, and
Well, let's talk about somebody first before we get into that.
all right.
Don't you think we should be thanking somebody? This episode is brought to you by George Palagonia.
Oh,
of
yes.
American Metal Exchange.
What am I thinking?
Guitar solo. It's got all your titanium, your zirconium, damn steel, mochatai, zircotai, all the good stuff. amxinc.com. Tell George howdy doody.
Tell George howdy doody. I like that.
Mm-hmm. He's gonna be like, what the hell?
Howdy doody.
It's very retro. Well done on the read.
Thank you.
You're very very professional.
Mm-hmm. Got the spicy Sunday morning
Spicy.
vibes going.
Yes. Well, you know what? It might be that energy you ended up with after the Arts in Metal show. What a segue,
Yeah,
man.
segue to
Telling you.
segue.
Yeah. No, thanks for catching that. We've almost missed doing our George thank you. So yeah, thanks George for supporting the show.
Yeah, man.
All right.
No,
Arts
it was
in Metal. Let's talk about it.
So Arts and Metal is obviously in the name it's art knives. It's kind of this weird tier of knives that are very scary for most of us. And Jeremy Marsh and I got the chance to go to this show, which has been typically in Italy in the past and was brought back to Nashville, which, we've gotten quite acquainted with Nashville lately, past couple of years. So of course, I was like, yeah, I'm going. And it's been scary. It's been probably the most exciting, but also anxiety driven few months that I've had. I don't know. I didn't want to disappoint the other makers, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I didn't want to show up and then be like, F this guy. So
Who is this dork over in the corner?
yeah, and
You
I
didn't
kind
want
of
to
was in
nail
the
it.
corner.
Well, let's set the stage a little bit for people who aren't familiar. This Arts in Metal show, we've talked about it a few times before.
Mhm.
So this is what I think was previously a European art knife show, right?
Mhm.
And Steve Delac came to own the show and brought it here and put it on for the first time in Nashville. So that was this very recent thing that just happened. And this is sort of I'm going to call it a show akin to the Art Knife Invitational for people who are more familiar with that. So this is people at the very, very, very top of their art knife game.
Mhm.
So the reason I think, or when Michael talks about being afraid of not living up to whatever expectations for the show or the other makers in the room, it's because the room has Michael Walker, Fogaritsu, Gray Taylor, Esposito,
Kurt Erickson with Julie Erickson.
Right.
It's these people that you've been looking at for as long as I've been loving knives and drooling over and being like, I don't even know how these people do it. And you get to be in the same room with them, and it's not, the gravity of it did not, pass over me. And I've
Right.
talked about mental health and stuff like that. I probably verged on the maybe unhealthier side of it this summer.
Yeah.
But it's also, sometimes it's good. And sometimes it's good for creativity. Sometimes it helps you do stuff you need to do. Had some heartbreaks on some of the knives, but I really wanted to work out some designs that I had in my head for a while, and it gave me an excuse to do them. Kind of work on more complex, layered and depth and color and, and I talked to Marsh about this oddly enough. One thought was like, a fleeting thought was like, how about I just get something engraved? Because that's like almost, it automatically kind of turns it into an art knife. No one says, oh, that's a tactical.
Yeah.
But we were both like, it felt like cheating. So neither one of us took anything that was engraved, which is interesting. It's kind of like, that would have been a better way to do it or an easier way to do it, but it felt kind of like then you're showing off someone else's art, you know, and I wanted it, and I think he did too. It wanted to be our art, you know, something we could bring to the table.
Right.
So I think I've said it before. I've never worked so long and hard for so few knives, and it was, you know, ended up with 3 knives, and it was definitely an interesting experience.
Yeah. Well, and I understand why you guys made that decision about engraved pieces, but there was a bunch of engraved pieces in the room.
There are.
Yeah. So I mean, next time you do it, I would not be shy about bringing an engraved piece. I think it would appeal to a certain slice of that base for sure.
No, but I mean, I think it's also like you just wanted to show what you could do, you know, and some of the engraving is sole authorship. You know, it's when you know, you do your own engraving, it's a little bit different than paying someone else to do it. And yeah, there's a little bit of that too, but yeah, it's all part of it. And people do see that. That's kind of like the weird thing about doing like a full mocha tie versus doing a regular knife. You know, people will look at it and be like, that's beautiful. And sometimes you want to be like, well, that's someone else's beauty, not mine. You know, that I know that sounds a bit strange, but people enjoy it. You know, it's all part of the package. And I probably got in my head a little bit too much, but I got to do some stuff that I really was proud of. I don't know if it really went over well there. I mean, they sold. I mean, they went away and everything did fine. But what I thought was a complex or whatever, I think they're more looking for shiny in historical pieces, if that makes sense. People that these names are known. So it was definitely a different show. Had a lady ask about what carbon fiber was. And that's, you know, who knows? I don't know the what or how of that one. That was an interesting question.
Yeah.
But I think they were just I don't know. It did fine. It's kind of I know I learned a lot. I think I know what I would like to bring next year and what I need to work on. I think the complexity of the build didn't really matter that much. One, I mean, because you're seeing those Italian makers that do complex stuff all the time. So it's not like whoop-de-doo, you know, to them. And you can tell that the crowd, and it's a very small show, especially since the overseas guys couldn't make it because of COVID travel restrictions. So there's only, I think, 11 makers total in the room, and then just not a very big crowd. And I think it was when you got your Espositos and your stuff like that and your Walker, it's hard to, those are such bright lights, and all these other guys too. It's kind of hard to look at anything else.
Yeah. Well, and the European contingent not being able to be there from a maker perspective, like you said, put a huge dent, right? I think weren't there like 8 or 9?
Yeah, a whole row.
Yeah, there's one whole side of the room where the makers weren't there, and Steve and Amy and I and Kylie were helping with getting those lottos done, but it would have been almost twice as big from a maker perspective if they were able to travel.
So were they able to send knives?
Yeah, the knives were there.
Oh, that's cool.
And then that was awesome, but I was so looking forward to meeting some of these guys that I hadn't met before.
Right.
I was very, that kind of saddened me a bit, but it was, and I don't blame, you know, I get it. Those guys are, their knives are so fantastic. I mean, I had to go around and check them out just for me as a knife nerd kind of guy. So it was just nice to be part of it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I know what I'm going to do next time, and I'm going to have to start planning now.
Right.
Let them roll around this winter until I get something banged out.
Like you said, it was a small show. The European makers not being able to be there was a bummer. Like, you know, the knives were there, which was great, but the makers weren't there. I think there are also a number of European collectors and Asian collectors that were unable to be there because of travel. And so the room was pretty small in general, right?
Yeah.
I think people were able, if they weren't able to travel, were able to do some things remotely, which was a nice provision that Steve and company put in place to be able to help accommodate them. But
oh yeah, no, it was a well-run show. It was,
yeah.
Steve does, you know, always good food, and you know, it was at the 21C Museum Hotel, which, so you have like art pieces on the walls, and which always changes the atmosphere. It's so much better to have your knives displayed in a place that's not like a sterile ballroom, or how we're just generally feel in a very large, crowded type of stuff. It's nice to just be able to walk around, see things, see people. But yeah, I think it was, because of a lot of the travel stuff, there was probably more dealers there to pick up specific pieces for people, so it was, it was fantastic. I mean, it was just an interesting dynamic. It was interesting to watch and see how that worked versus the usual shows I go to. I hate to say it, but like literally lowest on the totem pole. But at the same time, you're grateful to be on the totem pole at all.
Yeah, no, it's a great opportunity.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think, like you said, it's a different crowd, right? So these are people, I mean, they're, for the people who haven't been to this kind of show or this show, these are knives that are all the way to the 25K plus kind of zone. So these are very, very fancy, very expensive, best of the best of the best makers. So there's, it's very rare air, right? The space in the room.
So is this kind of a suit and tie type affair? Just out of curiosity, I've never been. Or
I dressed up. I didn't wear a suit and tie. But yeah, it was definitely
more, yeah.
You didn't see knife maker T-shirts, if that makes. I mean, it was
right.
Honestly, I don't do that to shows when I'm working behind the table either anymore. I quit that a few years ago.
Yeah, it's kind of like a TKI plus kind of environment.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, it was extremely interesting. I don't know, but man, those knives, it just sitting next to Kurt Erickson's stuff, with the highly sculpted, forged, and just all those knives, the Loechners. I got to talk with Staggerwalt for a bit and just...
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, Ken Staggerwalt's knives were awesome too. Everything
Fantastic.
was beautiful. I shared a bunch of pictures of stuff from the show, kind of crummy pictures, but just to give people an idea of the sort of stuff that was there. So we have some of that in the Facebook group, I think, and on Instagram. At least on my Instagram, I can share them over to the main for the show. But yeah, it was a very interesting show. From even just like being in the room kind of perspective. Like you said, the food was fantastic, first of all, which was always nice.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the food was wonderful. And it was in this, Michael mentioned this, but it was in this 21C Museum Hotel, which that's the first time I've ever been in one of those. And it really does accomplish a goal of being a hotel that is also an art exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's art everywhere, photography, painting, sculpture. I would say probably more photography than some painting stuff, but yeah, just a huge array of artistic things, and really unafraid of being crazy artistic things, right?
Yeah.
Very visually interesting artistic things. So the hotel itself was a very cool vibe, and that room that we were in was really fun because, like you said, it's still a room, right? Still what amounts to a ballroom in a hotel, but with a bunch of art around and a really unique feel, and I really like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we actually have one of those in Bentonville, and it's really cool. I've never stayed there, obviously, because I live here, but it's a really neat hotel.
Yeah, I didn't know it was like a small chain. I think they have 5 or 6 locations. Lots of penguins. I wonder if they have penguins in the other ones. They just had these random penguins standing around different places.
Big penguins, like 3.5 feet tall kind of penguins.
Mm-hmm.
Ours has a lot of art outside. It's right off the square in Bentonville.
Well, that's cool. I think we had dinner with some friends, and I think they were saying that they had penguins in all the hotels. That was kind of a signature thing, and that maybe they were different colors or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, neat place. Well, we enjoyed it too.
Yeah, very interesting.
Well, and I think, some of the knives were incredibly expensive, and so there were less entries on some of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the prices were quite high because they're really the best pieces out there, right? The best pieces currently being made. They should be expensive, but I think you and Jeremy were the only tactical guys in the room, right?
Yeah.
And, I think it's an interesting thing because it's a cross-pollination of modern tactical a little bit with you guys being there with kind of traditional art knife people. And so, yeah, it was an interesting thing to see, right? Like instead of makers who all know who each other are, like some cases not, right? Which was interesting. So
it was definitely to be in a room where no one really knows who you are is very, nothing wrong with that. It's just different than how you're used to.
Yeah.
We're used to this weird kind of rush of folks that come into the doors and, and it was just a different experience. Not worse, not whatever, just different, Just glad I got to be part of it.
And so the stuff in the room was a combination of bid and lottery, and there weren't too many bid knives, but there were a few. And so mostly there were lotteries, but you guys had fantastic turnout in your lotteries. It seemed to me your lotteries might have been the most entered in the room.
Yeah. And, Steve Delac had to navigate, bid stuff and people that couldn't travel because of restrictions. And so that made it very hectic for him. And you guys, were able to step in and help quite a bit. He was very thankful for you guys to be able to help with the guys that weren't there. So I think that it cut back on a lot of the bid stuff just because of how hard it would have been for them to try to keep that going.
Yeah. Well, it was fun. I look forward to going to that again. It sounded like maybe they were originally thinking it was every other year thing, but now I think they're talking doing it again next year.
Yeah. And supposedly all the knives went to places and, it's interesting because it's kind of like, I guess that may not happen maybe because of the high price that you have on some of these. It's such I think sort of a niche market. You have certain customers, and so it's just seeing all that was just fun to watch, fun to see, like a peek into a different world that I didn't know a ton about.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because it's like there were a lot of not a lot of, but a number of the knives, right? Fogoritsu and the others had that kind of deco sort of feel to them, which were beautiful, right? We expect that and see that in those pieces. And I was very fortunate to have a chance to handle those as part of keeping them polished up and ready for customers to check out. So that was really cool. Esposito piece was fantastic. Lots of great stuff there, but there was a probably more of a variety than I expected, or maybe that I really even considered to be in the room, right? So there were those kind of knives like deco, high polish knives. Michael Walker was there, and I think he had two, right? Yeah. He had a blade lock and a button lock where the lock was in the center of the pivot, and those were obviously gorgeous. And I had a fair bit of time to talk to him at the show, and it was really cool because he kind of walked me through how he did those things. And so that was a really, really interesting discussion. He's a fascinating guy to talk to, so that was fun. Gray Taylor was there, right? And he's a slip joint guy, so he had extremely elaborate and highly embellished slip joints, which was really cool. So kind of another angle of stuff in the room. Gosh, who else was there with different stuff?
And I think he's like 79 years old. I think that's how old. And I talked to him a few times, and looking at his very intricate knives, I'm like, how in the hell does he do that? And just nice man. It was nice to talk to. You had some hunting knives. It's basically like, to me, it seemed like you're opening up a points of interest book.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
You have these kind of, not Quillian daggers, but you have these kind of old school type of forged and whatever pieces mixed in with the Art Deco art stuff, and even a couple hunters and slip joints, and then us weirdos in the back there. It was a very interesting, eclectic mix of knives and styles, but art in their own right.
I think it was it Larry Fugan that was there that had that crazy Viking King knife? Did you get a chance to check that out? That was wild.
Yeah, and doing his very, that's a very much his style of kickassery, heavy carved, and
That was really neat. He spent a bunch of time talking to me about that knife because I asked, okay, so walk me through how you do this, right? There's a lot of elements in the handle of this knife, and I'm not exactly sure how it all goes together or how do you even approach it. For people who haven't seen that one, I think I blew it and didn't take pictures of that one. I know they're out there. It was a sort of a hunting knife shaped thing, right? With the stag handle, but it was an extremely elaborate Viking king, and the Viking king's head and face and helmet were basically the butt end of the handle, and his armor and other stuff made up most of the rest of the handle, all the way down to his belt, which was at the hilt. And so I don't know, just the way it was laid out on the handle even made sense. That was one of the comments I made to him, was like, okay, if you think about, okay, I'm going to make a Viking king knife, how do you even do that and have it actually look like it all makes sense? What I mean? He's very good at that piece of it. So it was a really interesting thing and very cool to see.
Yeah. It was a great opportunity to see some of these pieces in person. And his carving's always been, it's not just like carving, it's like immersive carving.
Oh yeah.
It's so 3D and so
sculptural.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Neat stuff.
And the Quisenberry pieces were great to see too.
Yes.
I've seen his stuff for a bit, but seeing that dagger was just with the mother of pearl.
Yeah.
Man, that was a gorgeous piece.
It was. He had this dagger, Tom and Sean, that was very fancy and on a display stand. And I asked him about it, and we talked for a couple minutes, and he said, "Oh, it's fully takedown." And I'm like, "What?" Yeah. Here. And he picked it up, and I'm like, "Oh, no. Don't take it apart for me." And he's like, No, it's okay. I'll show you. And boom, started taking the handle apart. And I'm like, holy shit, it is. That is super, super interesting. But yeah, all the makers were there. And that to me was a really nice thing too. I mean, it makes sense. It's customers in the room, right? And they're trying to sell knives and stuff. But obviously none of them have problems selling any of these knives, right? Buyers would be happy to have the opportunity to pay huge dollars for some of these things. But the makers were all, in my opinion, the ones I talked to, extremely humble and down to earth and happy to talk about their work and how and why they did something a certain way. I thought that was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
I got tips on finding mother of pearl from some of those guys. It was the same kind of kindness you'd see anywhere else, which, I don't know why I wouldn't expect anything less. I think you kind of put them on a higher tier,
Yeah, I mean, they're makers that are on a pedestal for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because they're the best in the world. And maybe my natural assumption is they might not be the most humble people in the world, because they're some of the best people in the world from a maker perspective. And, sometimes ego comes with that. But they were all super nice. I really enjoyed all the conversations I had. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
You got anything else you want to say about AIM?
No, I think we covered it. Oh, I mean, I know we talked about it ad nauseum, but the two-bladed hunter, I mean,
yeah,
man, it was so cool.
Yeah.
Just a great piece.
Yep.
And well executed. Awesome presentation. Everything about it was just kind of like perfect.
Yeah. This is the Nyland brothers that I think Sean and I talked about on the mini-sode, and we showed pictures in the Facebook group. Basically a takedown with sort of a fancy release mechanism or tricky release mechanism, two different blades. Yeah, that was fascinating. What a cool piece. And it was awesome to be able to see it in person.
Yeah.
It might have even been better in person than in pictures. I think for sure. It was
I think so.
Yeah.
You've seen blade exchange, production blade exchange stuff like Case did some, and there's some others that have done it, but to see that one done and how kind of tricky it was, and it wasn't just like, two blades that sort of fit. They both fit exactly like they were made as single, well-made fixed blades.
Oh, yeah.
Nice and tight, nice and just beautiful Damascus.
Yeah, and a nice display case. It was all a total package that was really, really well done. And like you said, once they were locked in, they were really locked in. There was no indication that this was some kind of tricky take-apart mechanism thing, right? To swap the blades out. But yeah, very clean. And when it was latched, you know, the only way you would know that it would come apart is that little release hole that popped the spring loose.
Mm-hmm.
So
And even having the little, release thing being, Damascus, and just the details were there. They stacked up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, very nice. All right. Well, it was a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And in a fun town where there's lots of stuff to do.
Yeah, it was nice to get out of my house, my shop a little bit.
What was so where was your point of relief, Michael? Usually at a normal show, it's after the knives are sold, right? When the last knife is sold, you're kind of like, same thing here, or maybe not till after the show, or
no, it was then.
Yeah,
I was pretty tired, just like usual. As soon as the knives are sold, I get like this blanket of tiredness that sweeps over me.
Yeah,
and that same thing. But then I had to go home and get ready for the next one.
Yeah, which is not far away.
Yeah, we're talking in the future and the past, as podcasts go. But yeah, it was basically a week and a few days that I'd get ready for California.
Yeah, so California in your case means what?
Blade West.
Blade West.
Mm-hmm.
So probably by the time this episode releases, Blade West will actually be done or have just finished. So what got you interested in doing Blade West? That's a new thing for you to do, a West Coast show.
It moved it down to Long Beach. The wife and kids have their fall break at the same time, and she was like, "Oh, we could take the kids to Disneyland." So that is how we ended up at Blade West.
Nice combo trip.
And we're like, oh, it'd be nice to kind of do a little something. I don't know. We haven't done a ton in the last couple of years for obvious reasons. So any opportunity to get the kids out and doing something is, I don't know, we're kind of grabbing at it.
Yeah.
So everything kind of lined up. And besides the timeline, that was rough. Been a busy bit of making, but I don't know. They've never been, and I think Abby's almost more excited to see Disneyland than the kids are.
Has she never been to Disney either?
I've not been.
Yeah, I'm not a crowds person, but I'm excited for the kids to see it.
Wow. Yeah, I've been to Disney both in California and Florida, and the Florida thing is obviously much, 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 much larger.
Oh, yeah.
But even the California one, we had a good time there. We took Ryan there when he was little, and it was a good time. We had fun.
Yeah, I think they'll get a big kick out of it.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't. The one in Florida is so daunting. It's almost like we've put it off. And man, it's not cheap either.
Heck no.
We put it off so long because it's like, oh, you got to plan out for a year and do this and that. And like, that's a lot of work just to pay a bunch of money to go somewhere. But I'm sure we'll have to do it at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, we just, when we did California, we just like showed up and it wasn't nearly as big. So it was easier to just kind of consume the place. You know what I mean? But it had all the same kind of vibe and stuff. It was neat.
Yeah, we're just going to walk around, get there early, and leave late probably.
One of the things you'll appreciate there is they cover every angle at Disney. At least the experiences I've had, and one of the things they pride themselves on is things like you never see garbage anywhere. Right?
That's what I've heard.
They're extremely vigilant about that kind of stuff. You never see the characters out of character ever. Like there's all kinds of very specific rules that they follow very strictly to kind of make it a truly immersive experience. And they do a great job of that. That's a fun thing to watch. Like you don't see, like even dumb stuff, right? Sprinkler head for a flower bed. Nope.
Yeah.
They're there, but all that stuff is hidden and you don't see it. And all the infrastructure that makes that place work is completely stashed away, which is really, really, really cool.
Mickey don't play.
Yeah. Mickey's a rich dude who has a strong vision. So
I'm
always interested in like the 33 Club or whatever, that kind of behind the scenes strangeness.
Oh,
I think it's just you pay a bunch of money and you get to be part of it.
Oh, I know. But yeah, it's a whole different level.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you're thinking there's going to be like some Bohemian Grove type of situation going on back there.
Yeah, no. I've actually been down that rabbit hole a little bit, and it's just kind of a crazy behind the scenes, like rich people club.
Yeah, very interesting. One of the fun things you guys probably read about all this stuff, and I'm sure they have it in California too, but in Florida, there's like a whole. One of the fun things about that place is there's a million different ways to do a place like that, right? Like, okay, it's an amusement park. I want to go ride some rides. Oh, it's I'm into a certain kid's movie or whatever, and I'm gonna go focus on that piece of it. There's all kinds of versions of it, right? People collect pins and stuff. So that's a huge thing. And one of the ones that my mom thought was super, super fun was the idea of these Mickey Mouse shapes, like Mickey's head and ears, that are everywhere, like embedded in things, like in, patterns of tile or pavers in the ground or in the road signs and in you name it. Those little Mickey shapes are stashed everywhere.
Yeah, little Easter eggs.
Yeah, hidden Mickeys they call them. And so like you can go on a little quest. I think there are people that actually now make guides and stuff like, okay, there are 14,000 hidden Mickeys in the Florida Resort Complex. That kind of stuff. And they'll tell you like, oh, there's this many in this spot and this many in this spot. And they're all just buried away in crazy places. And sometimes you can't see them unless you blur your eyes a little bit or, not look directly at something. It's fascinating. But as a guy who appreciates shapes, you'll like that.
Oh, that's great. I'll just be like squinting all the time. Like, what are you doing? Looking for Mickey.
Dad, we got to go. All right. So you're doing Blade West shortly on the heels of the AIM show. Tom, what are you doing next for shows? What's your show thing? What do you got coming up?
So my next show will be Kentucky. I had planned on doing the Nick's show in Nashville, but I just canceled that. I have, the last show I went to, I've got a new dog, Skip, and he actually, leaving him at home with my wife has been a little bit of a problem recently. Yeah, my Jack Russells had to have surgery twice. So right now we're in the middle of kind of some behavior modification, and I've been taking him to classes and stuff like that. So he's doing really good, but leaving him by himself with my wife, it's just not a good thing right now. So
not everybody's getting along.
Well, Skip wants to get along with everybody until he doesn't. And, he's got a lot of like toy possessiveness. So we don't have very many, if any, toys in the house right now. And he's big enough. He's about 80 pounds now that, it's his way or the highway, and they don't seem to realize that.
Interesting.
My wife's like, yeah, he's got a new slogan, bitches get stitches. So we're trying to stop that.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, he literally sent her to the vet twice, and she had to have pretty extensive surgery. So
geez.
It was either get rid of him or really get kind of drastic on some training. So we looked into boarding, and the place near us that does the boarding training is like, they didn't have any openings for like a month. So I started doing lessons the next day when I got back from Vegas. And this coming week will be the 5th lesson, and he's doing much better. So, but we just have to really keep an eye on him. So sadly, that's why I won't be doing Nashville, this New York show in Nashville. Kicks we're going to do. That's far enough out that I think we can do it. And it's a pretty quick show. So we're going to try to finish out the year that way.
Yeah. All right. So Kentucky show will be your last one for the year.
Yep.
All right. Sean, what about you? What's your plan?
Man, I don't have another show scheduled for any time. I'm going to go to New York and Nashville as a attendee to walk around and visit my friends and look at knives. But as far as setting up, I don't know, dude. I'm at the point where I'm over it.
Yeah.
I'm fucking done with it. It would take some real doing to get my ass back behind the table at this point.
Yeah. Can understand that.
What's causing that? Are you just kind of more burnt out this year, or?
Yeah, I mean, some of it's burnout and some of it's just the same old shit always with fucking shows. And And dude, I'm over the lottery thing. I'm tired of people who don't really want the knife getting my fucking knife, and then it changes hands fucking 15 times, and I fucking despise that. It eats away at me, and the best way to avoid it is to just sell them to the people I know are going to fucking keep them.
I've struggled with that quite a bit too. And it's like, it's a necessity. You can't do first come, first serve. It doesn't work that way. You know, then you do the lottery and it does that sort of thing. And I've talked about this before, I'm sure, where, you know, I used to call this the indecent proposal. It'd be like when I would show knives getting ready for a show and someone would be like, I'll pay you this much amount of money to buy that knife. I'm like, it's going to the show. And I'd hate like telling Abby about it, because it'd be like, here's what someone offered this much for the knife. But I'm like, it's going to the show. It's not for sale. It's going to the show. And then you do the lottery, it'd get flipped right there. And, you know, she kind of gave me a look like that could have been your money. And it's like,
yeah,
I wish there was a better way, because I hate that somebody who really wants a knife has to go through and basically get a used knife for a pretty hefty price sometimes. And I just wish there was a better
used
way.
As hell.
Yeah.
You know, the people
2 or 3
who are
times. Already had their Instagram photos or whatever and talked about, you know, how much it's loved and then sold, you know, and it's just kind of like, I wish there was a better way to find that person that really does want it and get it in their hands. And I don't know. It's a tough one sometimes, because then you constantly get the guy will be like, but I really do love it. You know, we've all had this before. It's going to be my grail, my life, my whatever. And when we were younger, we'd kind of be like, oh, well, maybe the guy really does. Sold.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a hard one to navigate.
Yeah.
And then constantly trying to make things, you know, a lot of people happy, which fails miserably sometimes. Well, a lot of the times.
Here's the thing. Just be honest if you buy the knife. Don't tell me it's going to be buried with you and sell it in 3 hours. I don't give a shit either way. Just don't lie to me.
Yeah, or involve me in it, really.
Yeah. That's my thing. I don't need to fucking be involved. And I definitely don't want you hitting me up after trying to help you move the goddamn thing.
Yeah. Nope. I do. Yeah,
fuck you if you come at me with that.
Hey, can you help me sell it for more money?
Yeah, it happens.
That is frustrating.
It happens, man. People got fucking nerve.
I don't know.
Cunts.
I don't know if it's being so not being aware of how that comes across. But it's like, I made the knife. I sold it for what I thought was right. And you want me to help you make money off it. Sometimes more than I made.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. That's not, I don't know.
Yeah.
Dude, if you can't tell, I'm over it. It is a fucking burr in my saddle.
Yeah, and it goes back to like the reverb stuff too. And that's where it got real bad about that is I want, can I have this cleaned up and do this just so I can, you know, make that money back? It's like,
right.
So
if I didn't know any better, I would say that Sean was at least mildly perturbed about this situation.
Yeah, it's been eating at me for a while.
Yeah.
But I think I'm figuring it out.
Yeah.
And it's just, you got to be a dick and you got to watch out for yourself.
Well, and sometimes I wonder about like, you know, we've all had the cautionary tales of raising prices and things like that. And, you know, people want quote unquote unfair price, which this is all subjective. You know, we're all making knives that don't cost $2.99 in the hardware store.
Right.
So, but there's some invisible line that someone thinks is, you know, where you should stop at. And sometimes crossing that line cuts out some of the people that aren't going to make money off of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm like, I understand where that's coming from.
Yeah. If there's meat on the bone, then games get played, right? That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we see that even in watch stuff, right, Michael? We'd see people buying and selling, dealers even selling watches, even if they could make a couple $100 on them. Very expensive watches. So, you know, because you can do it in volume, it works. And so this is exactly the same way. And part of the scene, no less maddening though, for sure, right?
Well, but then there's the fear of if there's not meat on the bone, will anybody buy it?
Yeah.
But the thing is also, and this is, I think, something that I fall into, and I think we've probably talked about it before. You know, I think it's healthy to raise your prices every once in a while. And I'm the worst at this, like literally the worst. But at the same time, you know, our prices on materials and utilities and all this kind of stuff just keeps going up. I mean,
oh yeah,
shoot, you look at some of these new grinders and they're $6,000 or $7,000. You know, steel prices have gone way up recently, and I know materials aren't a huge part of what we do, so we're able to keep prices the same for longer, even when material prices go up. But that's not really fair to us. It's taking money from us, and it's also it's a weird thing, pricing, because sometimes if you're the cheapest, people put a bad connotation with that, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
I think that's a fair point. I've often wondered about, and I've talked to some of you guys and other makers about the idea of, you know, someone placing a value on your knife means a secondary may also place a value on their knife. It validates that price. You know, there's a weird mix of that sometimes. We're like, oh, that's a high priced knife. That maker, that's the value they put on it. You know, and I think sometimes if it's too cheap, people will be like, why is it so cheap?
Well, and I worry, well, if I raise it $20, are people still going to buy it? Or, you know, that kind of stupid stuff. And then, and oftentimes my head is in the sand as far as the market, right? I'm not paying attention to what other people are doing most of the time. And, you know, every once in a while when I pick my head up and look around and I see that the production knife companies are selling their fixed blades for more than mine, or, you know, brand new makers are bringing twice as much, I'm just like, maybe I've been messing up here.
That's an interesting one. You know, I think sometimes it's almost easier for a newer maker to have a higher price initially than it is for an older maker to raise their price.
Right?
Yeah. You get this kind of buck back, and it's kind of like, I'm just trying to, and I'm finally getting to the point where I'm not going to be as worried about it, or try not to worry about it as much. Like, I had my highest priced knife at the AIM show, and it wasn't because it was a fancy show. It was because it was a knife that I would have generally had as an open bid. You know, it was full, whatever, mother of pearl and all this stuff. But I was still kind of like,
Even though that was a knife that would have probably sold for 3 times that on a bid at another show.
I still was like, you know?
Yeah.
But business stuff is scary, and marketing stuff is sometimes way counterintuitive.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It doesn't always make sense.
No, it really doesn't.
All right. So Tom's doing Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Sean's doing fuck all, apparently.
That's a pretty good summation. Yeah.
He's over in the corner just listening to some emo music going.
Nah, dude, there ain't nothing emo about it. I just realized that I have worth.
Yeah.
You do, man.
Yeah.
I think that's a very healthy way to look at it. And I think that's a good way to, because otherwise I fall in that same trap sometimes of, I wish I would charge more, and then I get upset that I don't. And then it's like, you're a little, and it's all my own fault. It's all my own head sort of shit that I think having, you know, knowing your worth, and not in a conceited, you know, ego type of way, but just saying, this is what makes me happy to make that knife. It's not saying I think that my knife is so much better than other shit out here. This is the price that says I am happy to make that knife and sell it. That's all that means.
Yep. So no shows for Sean this year for the remainder, other than hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
Tom's doing Kentucky. Michael's doing Blade West, which will be done by the time this comes out. You're talking about maybe coming to hang out in Nashville, right?
Yeah, I talked to a couple of people and like, well, just come and hang out. And I'm like, that sounds kind of fun.
For sure.
But then I'm like, you know,
I might be able to get a couple knives done, pay for my weekend.
Then I'm like, but I know I've been to this movie before. I'll be like, well, but then I just take 2 knives and everyone will be upset if I just take 2 knives. And then I'm all of a sudden making knives for a show.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know. It may happen. Who knows? When is that? November or something?
It's the weekend before Thanksgiving.
So like 15, 16, something.
Something like that. 17, something.
Shit, that's a whole month away.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got all kinds of time.
Yeah.
See, that's one interesting twist, right? Suddenly it feels like you got all kinds of time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and they don't have to be puzzle piece, mosaic, whatever either, right?
No. No.
No. Well, I'm going to go to that one too. So yeah, you should come at least and hang out and probably bring some knives because that's what you do. But
not in the brown baggy way. I'd get a table. Don't worry, Steve. I ain't going.
Sean and I will consider deputized by Tom Crine on the Brown Bagger Patrol.
No, I think
Absolutely.
you guys will find this very interesting. Speaking of, like, we hit on the refurb stuff for a second. Michael Walker followed Delac back to Springfield, and we had lunch the next day. And I'm just like a kid, and it's Michael Walker.
Right.
But I was asking,
as all of us do.
I've always been interested about how art guys treat art knives, because you generally don't see, someone once told me you don't see the art guys putting their stuff under, plastic. And I was like, well, you also don't see the guys going up there and being like, let me flip this 20 times and whatever.
Yes.
And I was like, how do you handle like the refurb type of, do you get a lot? And he was like, he just kind of like gave this, and I was like, I that right there said it all. He was like, had one that someone was just like, they must have been flipping it over a bunch of times. I was like, I hate to see that, but I was kind of like, I'm glad that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
Yeah. I really, really, really enjoyed talking to him.
Yeah. Extremely nice guy.
So what was his answer?
Yeah, he's had some that he's kind of come back that he had one that he had to replace this pin in, and he was like, an interesting thing with him was it was an older knife that he didn't charge very much for, but now the secondary's so high on it that it turned from whatever this very low price for him was to this extremely high price, and he had to go in and work on it and replace a piece that was, that he messed up. If he would have messed up that refurb, that fix,
yes,
what would have been the financial issue?
Heck yeah.
And I was like, that's a tough one,
Yes.
It was no longer a $1,300 knife or whatever it cost to sell it initially way back in the day.
Yeah.
Kind of made me feel a little bit better.
In a disturbing way.
Yeah, he had to get like his, all his optic stuff out and get this little tiny thing in there, and one little mishap would have messed it all up, and like, ooh.
Right. Yeah, because those things are all complex puzzle piece together trickiness. Well, maybe we'll trick Mr. Walker to join us sometime. How cool would that be?
Very amazing.
Yeah.
Exceedingly.
Super amazing. We'll work on that. All right. So I'll be in Nashville. Sean's going to be in Nashville. Michael's going to be in Nashville. That'd be fun. We'll bring them.
Oh, it would be fun.
You guys got to
everybody
remind me to bring the microphone. I wanted to bring it to AIM and talk to some people. It'd be really cool to have some audio from there. And I forgot because we left it in her room. So
way to go. Way to go.
Totally blew it. All right. So there's been some shows and stuff, but then Tom, Mr. Crine, we joked about him going on some kind of mountain adventure, and he actually did. It wasn't a joke. I thought it was a joke, but he actually did some crazy thing. What'd you do?
Oh, yeah. So this was the third year in a row that Ben and I have gone with my brother and a cousin and his wife out to Colorado. And sorry, I'm a little froggy too. It's kind of a crazy thing we do. The first time we went to Maroon Bells. We were staying in Aspen, and we told the lady what we're doing that was walking on the street, and she's like, "You guys are crazy. You're going to die." So that was always, that was kind of fun, but that's a lot of times that's the response we get. Cause basically, what we've been doing is, we drive out after work Thursday. So there's 5 adults, so we can make it out pretty easy. And then Friday is our day to acclimate. Although this year we did it a little differently. We actually drove my brother's truck, which was fun. We'll talk about that in a minute. But he's got a older 4-wheel drive truck because the book said that if you drove a vehicle with high clearance, you could get another 2 miles down the trail, right, to a different trailhead, which 2 miles is pretty significant. Although it didn't have AC. The AC he got fixed, but it didn't work, so it was kind of uncomfortable. And it basically, we called it the boat because you kind of sailed it down the road. You couldn't drive it. It's his work truck, so it had about 6 inches of play in the steering wheel, which was loads of fun.
Nice, nice.
But yeah, we get to the parking lot and we park next to a Prius, basically. So we're like, I don't know if we needed the higher clearance or not.
Right.
Literally, it was like 50 yards further that we could get with this truck. But anyways, yeah, we did Capitol Peak this year, which is also in the Maroon Bells Snowmass area. It's one of the top 5 hardest 14ers in Colorado. And this year we decided to backpack in. So we backpacked in 6 miles or so to the lake, which is Capitol Lake, and spent the night. And I got really bad altitude sickness.
Yeah.
Like to the point I didn't know if I was going to be able to summit the next day. I couldn't eat. I was super nauseous. So I basically backpacked that 6 miles in. And so we went in about a 10-hour period from 1,000 feet, which is 2,000 feet where we live, to 11,600 or something like that.
Yeah.
I've never been bothered by the altitude before, but yeah, it was not fun. So as soon as we got there, I set up my hammock and I tried to eat, couldn't, went to bed. And, that was around 7. I woke up at 10 and I was feeling pretty good, and it was cool. The temperature dropped. It was down in the 40s. But it was a full moon, and it was so awesome because, in a hammock, you can see all this. And, it was so bright. It was like daylight, except it was black and white.
Oh, yeah.
It was really cool.
Awesome.
So next morning I woke up, felt much better, decided to make a go of it. And yeah, we summited on Capitol Peak and then came back down and backpacked all the way out and drove home that night.
Yeah.
One of the crazy things that happened was I was shot. This one took it more out of me than any of the others. I'm kind of probably in worse shape, and it was a harder one. But I started driving in Lyman, and I made it about 3 miles down the road before the front end blew up in the truck. So that was kind of exciting. The drive shaft to the front, the 4-wheel drive, basically almost came through the floor.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, no, the transfer case blew up. The front drive shaft dropped out, so I didn't know that diesels had this. It has a return fuel line.
Yeah.
Knocked some holes in that. So luckily we just filled up. We're pouring gas or diesel out, pick up all the parts, hit a police turnaround, and we were actually able to drive back to Lyman and get a hotel. And
crazy.
Yeah, it was a fun trip. One of the fun things on these is gear, right? So I picked up one thing that I think is really cool, and one of our prior the people on the show, Nick Rolfe, is who I went to for help. And I wanted a satellite communicator.
Yeah.
It's not a phone. You can't talk on it, but he recommended the Garmin InReach. He recommended the full size with the screen. I couldn't find that locally due to the supply issues. The only one that I could find locally was the InReach Mini, and I'll be honest, it was really cool. It basically syncs up to my phone. I use my phone, it Bluetooth, and so I just can type on my phone and send texts. You can get weather reports. It shows you where you are. If you get lost, there's an SOS button or hurt, which that was a big concern on this one because this had Capital has the knife edge. I don't know if you've ever videoed that, but it's basically a 75-foot section that's like 2,000 feet down on each side that you kind of shimmy across.
Hell no.
Pictures gave me anxiety.
Yes, the photos were bad enough.
Yeah, my brother literally refused to look off one side because it's the one that's straight down, and he never did look over it. I'm like, dude, you're sitting down on there, you're not going anywhere. And he's like, nope. But yeah, that was pretty cool. That was really nice. Being able to text, my wife and everybody else's family, hey, we're here, we're doing fine, blah blah blah. And then on these, I also carry 2 knives on these, which will tie it into the knife making, part. But I take a Swiss Army knife, the Alox Classic, which is the little one, just for weight purposes. So I carry a different one on every one, and then I laser the name of the peak on it once I summit.
Oh,
so kind of cool. And it, the scissors are handy if you get a blister, you can cut some moleskin or whatever, so they're kind of handy. And then I carry one of my Quests on my pack, so those are the 2 that I take.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. We're talking about doing next year, I guess in Durango, you can catch the train to Silverton and get off partway and camp. And there's 3 14,000-foot summits you can do there.
Wow.
So that's what we're talking about doing next year.
Yeah. Is there a prep thing you can do to help with not experiencing altitude sickness? Because I've certainly seen that with people where it hasn't ever bothered me in the past, but I'm always nervous about it because I've traveled with people who also have never had problems, and then like you, suddenly, right, they're sick as hell. Yeah. It's like, what the heck?
Well, I mean, one of the things you can do is drink a lot of water, which I was trying to do, but once you get nauseated, it's hard. But yeah, you got to keep drinking water. Tylenol and Motrin help get over the hump. There's also a prescription medication that you can take, and we were taking that. My cousin that goes is a pharmacist, and so they got a prescription for that for us, and we were taking that. And I think it's kind of hit or miss sometimes, and I think on this one, I think being in better shape probably would have helped. I think if you're in better shape, it doesn't punch you quite as bad.
Yeah.
And I was not in good enough shape for this trip, I'll be honest. At elevation, my resting heart rate was about 120.
Yeah.
So I embraced the suck a lot.
Yeah.
Ben, on the other hand, was a monster. Since last year, he's dropped like 40 to 50 pounds.
Right.
And he's running every day. And yeah, it was kind of cool.
Awesome.
Very cool. It's very cool.
It was kind of like a solo event for me because everybody else was so far ahead of me the whole time. So yeah,
it's cool that you're doing it with family, doing it with your son. That's really, really neat. And yeah, the pictures of the summit were like, nah, that's really cool. I am not going there.
Yeah,
no,
it's just something. It's a huge sense of accomplishment, and it's like you've been somewhere not many people are ever going to go. And it's just so beautiful up there. It's kind of cool. And then you feel like a total loser when you look at like these people going up Everest in Nepal. Like their first base camp is like, 17,000 feet or something like that. You're just like, damn. Of course, we didn't have any Sherpas, so.
Right.
Always someone better.
Yeah.
Yep. No, very cool. What a fun adventure to watch from afar.
Good times.
Plus, I almost think that if I was a betting man, I think there's a solid chance that one of Tom's primary reasons to do these is because then he gets to have another gear-related adventure. It's all about the gear with that guy, Tom Cryan.
That'd be part of the fun. Be like, ooh, what can I buy?
Oh, heck yeah.
Well, you do have to research it a little bit, but I'm pretty much geared up. With this inReach, I think I've got what I need. In fact, I think I carried too much this time. I didn't really think it out. You had to carry a bear canister up there because there was actually a big black bear in the camp around the lake the week before. So you have to take a bare canister. Well, I didn't even think about it. The bare canister works great to sit on. And I took a folding chair too, which weighed about 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds. So it's like, which I never used, by the way. So
yeah.
Sometimes getting into the gear can get you in trouble because you carry too much shit. And I did that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Well,
I highly recommend getting out, even if you're not doing 14s, getting out, camping and backpacking. It's, I'm just getting into backpacking this like last year, and this is the second backpack trip, and it's a lot of fun. And the right backpack can make all the difference.
So Tom had this mountain adventure. We're coming into fall big time, right? I mean, in Michigan anyway, we got leaves on the ground. One of our trees has almost completely dropped its leaves already, but we got colors turning, and it's gotten quite cool in the morning hours. And that means one thing: winter's coming.
Winter is coming.
Yeah. So stuff going on here in the fall, and especially over the winter. So things are happening still, right? I mean, you guys have other shows you're going to prep for, or things you're going to do, or projects you're going to work on. I got a big one for work that we've been working on for some time now. October 26th is the reveal of the new Z06, which will be really fun. And looking forward to that, because we'll give some details and show some pictures. And so that'll be a good deal.
The car industry is really strange right now.
No doubt.
Yeah. I mean, just availability I've never seen anything like it before.
No, it's unprecedented. We've certainly had shortage issues in the past that I think in most cases customers didn't really end up being exposed to or see due to natural disasters, things like volcanic eruptions and, believe it or not, right? And like the Fukushima reactor meltdown thing that created a number of supply chain related challenges that weren't obvious to the customers, right? Because we still were building cars and stuff. But yeah, it's a super weird time, right? It's hard to find a car to buy, right? And that's because the companies can't build cars because there's shortages. And the headline is, well, you can't get the chips to do it. And that's a big piece of it. But there's also a ton of other supply related items that people don't think about.
Plus there's shipping issues.
Yeah, there's problems with the whole thing. So,
yeah, I think so. I leased a car for the first time ever this last time, and it's time to turn it in December. And my car is actually worth more than I paid for it 3 years ago.
Yeah, isn't that a weird thing?
It's nuts.
Yeah, I have a friend that had a GMC Canyon Denali, so a fancy GMC Canyon midsize truck with a diesel. And he was only maybe a year into his lease, or maybe less than a year. And he sold it to Carvana.
Yeah.
And they wrote him a check for something insane, like $7,000 or something. Like, okay, we'll get you out of your lease. We'll come pick the truck up and drop you off a check. And he's like, well, what do I have to do? Oh, nothing. Just be home at this, 10:30 on Tuesday.
So Carvana is such a weird thing.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I'm getting to be an old guy, right? But Ben actually just bought a car on Carvana. Like, he sat on his phone for a few minutes, ended up buying a car, getting it financed, made a down payment. It gets delivered Monday. That blows my mind.
Yeah. It's super weird, the idea of completely shortcutting the whole process.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. A lot of people like it. I mean, and I can certainly understand why, right? The process is not fun.
No, they make it so not fun.
Yeah.
What, you don't enjoy feeling like somebody's trying to fuck you over? Fuck, I love that. That's the best part of it.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of business changes the industry. And what I personally started to realize, and this totally makes sense, you hear about places like Carvana and the like, right? These online car retailers have been buying used cars like mad, and for prices, like you said, that are kind of shocking. And then if you actually drive by a place where one of those actually has a location, right? Like a retail location, they are jammed with cars. And then you go by any of the car dealerships and they have no cars.
None.
So they're very much capitalizing the used car market, and it's smart, right? Because certainly right now that's very profitable, right? Because people are going to turn to used cars more because you just can't get a new car, or at least it's been difficult to get a new car, and it might be for a while. So yeah, weird dynamic.
Yeah, no, I've talked to you about the Tundra thing, and just I've got like 30,000 miles on mine, but they wanted to give a lot for mine.
Yeah.
But then you can't get a new one.
Isn't yours like a 2000 model?
2017.
Yeah.
So they're just like, like the dealership was going to give me not much less than what I paid for it in 2017.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. But then the problem is nothing's coming in. And so I talked to a few people and finally found a dealership down in Arkansas, and they moved so many cars that their inventory number, stuff like that, are able to let them do more things. He's like, we can.
We're at in Arkansas.
Little Rock.
Okay.
He's like, yeah, we'll give you this. And I was like, well, I mean, can you hold that number? And he's like, yeah, whatever. Yours will be done, whatever. Then he called me and said there was a chip issue. The truck's not going to be done for a while. I was like, I really don't care, how long it takes, as long as you still want mine. Like, yeah, we can drop it off and pick yours up and do whatever.
Oh, wow. They're going to drop it off and pick yours up?
Yeah. I don't have to step
awesome.
in at all. I don't know who this guy is. I mean, hell, it may even be a real dealership. Who knows? But it's just like, if I don't have to do any of that,
yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be different if it was, a car that I needed to check out. But shit, it's basically the same truck.
You getting a Tacoma or a Tundra?
Another Tundra. I'm a creature of habit.
Are you getting a 21 or the new 22?
21. Yeah, they don't even know. They haven't released really prices. I love what they did as far as mechanical, but it is one ugly truck.
I like the idea of the hybrid, though.
Yeah, they did some great things, some great upgrades for the mechanical stuff. The twin turbo, supposedly better gas mileage, better, it pulls more, stuff like that. Fantastic. But who knows what they'll cost, when they'll even be around, and I just don't drive very much.
That one's got me kind of excited looking, because I could run it as a hybrid most of the time, run it on electricity.
Oh, you talking about the Tundra?
Yeah.
It's not a real hybrid. It's got a hybrid drive.
Oh, yeah. I've been looking at it, and I haven't been able to figure out exactly what it is, but.
So you can't drive it powered on its own by electricity with no engine running?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you if you knew more about that. It's supposedly a drive between the engine and the transmission that it does something at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting arrangement. We did the same thing in the Silverado at one point with what amounts to a drive in that same spot, right? It's basically a torque converter that has an electric motor kind of built around it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much battery it has, if it could run on its own or not. That's always kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, but, the good old boys were real upset about losing a V8. I don't know. People get real wrapped up in the idea of needing something for power. It's like, but aren't you just complaining about how shitty the gas mileage is on these Tundras? Because they are shitty.
Yeah, the world is changing, man.
Mm-hmm.
Things are changing fast. Yeah, well, hopefully we'll eventually find an end to this thing. We're going to be in the same spot, Tom, with the lease return that we got Amy's got a vehicle she's got to give back, not this coming January, but the following. So I got my fingers crossed that by then things are back flowing again. We can get her into something.
The guy at the Honda dealership, he's like, well, right now we have 6 cars on the lot, period.
Right.
But he's like, if you come in now, it's 3 months. We can usually get pretty close to what you want, and if not exactly what you want, and if it is past your lease date, he said apparently you can just keep making the same payment on your lease date for another month or 2 until you get it. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, a bunch of the companies that do leasing are extending that stuff.
Yeah.
As because they know you can't do something else, and they really want you to lease another car, right?
Yeah.
So they're happy to try to accommodate you if they can get you to stick around.
Right.
Yeah. And if you go thinking you're going to find some old beater to drive around until then, shit, no.
No.
Go
There's
to Marketplace
none, dude.
like 1992 Tempo, $8,000.
Right.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, yeah. My brother-in-law drives a little Chevy Spark, right? He drives a lot of miles and it's cheap. And I was like, well, those used to be cheap. Maybe I'll look at one of those. Man, I looked it up because I was just going to be like, maybe I could buy cash because I drive like 3 miles, right? 4 miles most of the time. And I was looking at them a few years ago thinking the same thing, and I didn't. And they were like $6,000, $5,000 for a few years and, 50,000 miles. Dude, they're like $15,000 for one that was 5 or 6 years old with 60,000 miles. And I was just like, huh? Nah, I'm out.
It is wild times. It's going to be interesting because if they're able to eventually, well, they will eventually get things improved, right? Maybe not return to where we were for parts availability.
I hope so.
But I think the expectation is we're going to get into a better place. But when you get to a better place and those prices come back down like they should.
What's the used car industry going to do?
Yeah, right. So hopefully for their sake, Carvana's selling those used cars they've been stockpiling as fast as they've been buying them because, the forecasts all say it's not going to get better for a while. So they got time, but
a couple years, I think, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
Wow. I needed to crash in a couple years, so because I'm gonna have to buy my boy a car.
Yes.
Let's get this thing crashing.
I just did that this week. I bought Zach a car.
Yeah.
Well, I ordered one. I paid off Jake's car, and I bought Zach a car. So yeah.
Nice.
Good times.
Yeah. Crazy times in that world. We'll see what happens.
Better learn how to bicycle, I guess.
Yeah.
Got a couple of those.
Even if you can get a bicycle, that's the thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. That's true.
That's the reality of all of this is that it ultimately is everything, right? I think we're going to see consumer prices have already started to go up. Grocery prices have already gone up.
Oh my gosh.
Sheet metal for that stupid Mustang that I'm paying too much. They're like, we don't have those. It'll be this and that. It's like, damn.
Yeah. It's no joke. It's no joke. It affects every part of life. And I think people are only just starting to realize that. So we'll see what happens. So we got our big October surprise. That'll be fun. It'll be fun to talk a little bit more about that once we get it publicized.
I'm intrigued. I got to sit in your Corvette and felt very cool.
Yeah.
Dude, they're so sexy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're really fun. I think people are going to like the new one, so we'll see. It was weird. The Chevy marketing guys actually released a picture the other day of it.
I saw that.
I'm like, whoa, what about the 26th? So you can see a lot more on the 26th, so that'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, looks good.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I'll say it's not the most flattering shot.
Oh.
So I'm not sure what the idea was there, but hey, what do I know? I'm an engineer. I'm not a
somebody effed up, I think.
Marketing guy. No, I think it was intentional, but it's an interesting thing. So the one thing about this goes back to Tom's non-intuitive marketing thing, right? Buzz is buzz, period.
Yeah.
So if you can keep stuff on the front burner boiling away, that's a good thing. And so I assume that was all intended to do that kind of stuff because people certainly talked about it.
What are they releasing? 23, 22? What's...
this will be a 2023 Z06.
Man, my years are just jacked up.
Yeah, the car business is weird because it's always like at least 6 months off, sometimes more. All right. What do you guys got going on here in the fall and into the winter? I know you got projects over there. Sean, what do you got going on this fall? You working on knives? Considering your PhD plan? What are you doing?
Dude, I'm just working on knives, doing gun stuff. I've been studying up on body armor. That's how I'm rolling into 2022.
What do you mean doing gun stuff? What you got going on?
I got some guns coming in, you know.
Little of this, little of that.
Exactamundo.
I
might be getting me one of those B&T APC 9s, hopefully.
Oh, that'd be really, really badass.
They're really cool. Ben got one.
How's he liking it?
It's badass. Although I will tell you, they went and shot it, and they thought they were shooting factory loads, but it was a reload, and they blew the firing pin out of it, or the extractor out of it. So they got a new extractor coming.
Ouch!
Oh dang!
Damn.
Dude, it was kind of scary, but yeah.
I've kind of stayed away from, you get that kind of desire to, and maybe it's a nesting thing for guys, because usually it comes in the wintertime or whatever, and I've been like kind of staying away from looking at guns and blah, blah. And then I caught myself the other day checking the old primary arms emails and stuff again and being like, God, shit. It's coming back around.
You feel the fever coming on?
A little bit. Where you're like, ooh, what kind of interesting shit can I get into now?
Definitely a seasonal thing for me personally.
100% wintertime is when I start looking at a lot of guns and shit.
I try to stay away, but I find I am looking all year long. But seems like in the fall, like right now, I'm trying to get some of the rifles because I'm bad. I've got a bunch of guns that I've just purchased over the years and put in the safe, and like I'm trying to get a few set up for hunting because this fall we're going down to Monticello, which is 4 or 5 hours away, and most of the family's going and they all want to hunt. So I've got like 3 rifles set up, but there's going to be 4 or 5. So I'm trying to put some scopes on guns and sight them in and that kind of crap.
Yeah.
But I mean, nothing I look at is practical at all. It's all like PCC shit where it's like,
right.
Let me look at this,
That's fun though.
Yeah, they're fun, but I mean,
for what?
I don't know. It's always like getting stuff to be set up for silencers and stuff like that, and then you go to a range and other people don't have silencers, and you're like, what was the point of me doing silencer stuff? It gets very like, I don't know.
I can tell you for me, for a 22 can, they're pretty handy because like my mom has an armadillo problem right now. We live in town. Her backyard is actually in the country, which is weird. Mm-hmm. So it's legal, but we've got neighbors, and it's a safe way to shoot. So I've been going over there and taking care of armadillos.
No, the 22
nobody knows.
Fine here. It doesn't matter. I shoot that and stuff, but I'm talking your 45s and 9mm, and I've been looking for a good 45 whatever because they're mostly naturally subsonic anyway. But I mean, real punchy type of stuff. So I've been looking for something kind of fun to shoot, but still.
Look at that CMMG Banshee.
They were gone forever because they've got that blowback, thing that's supposed to get rid of a little bit of the recoil on that. But man, they were just like backed up for like a year for a while.
Yeah, I don't know if that's any better. I was looking at them recent, and they're not giving any kind of lead time now.
No, but I saw one, not on their site that was, available. And, I also saw a couple of the, I've always wanted got a scorpion. Shit, just forgot the name of it.
Chris?
The real funky one. Mark, you know what I'm talking about.
The Chris?
Yeah. Vector?
The Vector, Chris Vector. And I've seen a couple of those come back in 45. I'm like, ooh.
Birch has a thing for the oddity.
Strange shit.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
And
no real
I've been
need
thinking
for it.
real hard on a 45 long Colt lever gun and having it threaded to put a suppressor on.
Oh yeah.
That'd be
I would highly
fun.
recommend 45 Colt, period. I've got one in a lever gun, and it's a fun gun. Having a can would make it even cooler.
Heck yeah.
Damn straight. That was my thinking.
Do any of you guys reload? I think you do, Mark, right?
I have stuff I haven't reloaded in a long time. I got some Dylan
Same.
stuff.
I recently just started setting up.
Yeah, I have a couple times talked about doing that, building a new bench and setting up. I got a 1050, so it's like, man, I can crank some stuff out. The problem is I think the components are as hard to get as ammo.
Primers are starting to come around. They're still expensive. They've dropped around here anyways to $75 to $80 a thousand, which is
crazy.
It is crazy, but it's not super crazy. They were like $200 a thousand, which that's straight up crazy. But the good thing is, like, when this happened, I don't know, a year or two ago, I stocked up on primers. So the cool thing is, if you've got primers, all the rest of the components are available because nobody has primers. So
okay, that's the main bottleneck.
Yeah, for me, that's been pretty handy. I mean, there's still bottlenecks, but if you're watching, it pops up and then it's gone and something else pops up. So
yeah,
I've got a couple new calibers that I'm trying to load, and in the past, I've always hand loaded pistol or revolver rounds, and so you're using carbide and stuff. And I'm trying to do some rifle stuff, and that's a whole different game. And
yes,
I've learned quite a bit, but I'm getting ready to have 300 blackout and 350 legend loads that I've loaded. So I'll try to kill some deer with them this year, I think.
So what about fall and into winter projects, Tom? What do you got going on?
So, I mean, not much changes here. I mean, day to day, as far as we're still trying to crank out knives every day, but we're working on the shop quite a bit. So the back part of the shop has never totally been finished out. And we set up, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've set up 2 new benches, which is kind of cool. We're setting them up as workstations. So with a dedicated grinder for each station, I've had a couple grinders that I hadn't gotten set up, and now they're up and running, which is kind of cool. This helps us get towards, if I want to do a school, I now have 4 or 5 dedicated workstations, which is kind of cool. So I could, I'm almost to the point where I could do it. I still have to get like some little stuff like drill presses and vices mounted and all that kind of stuff. But we just mounted, I got a TW90 that we mounted. It's on the Bader adjustable stand. So those I have to get bolted to the floor, which is kind of a pain in the ass, but we've got that done. And then I had a Wilmot grinder that I bought 3 years ago at Blade and never set up. And I've got it on a Bader stand and it's mounted to the floor now. Do you guys know who DD Workrest is?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I've needed to do this for a while, but like his Workrests don't really fit the dozers. He'll modify some stuff or he used to, but I never got that done. But I got some Workrests for a couple different grinders. My Scandi grind Workrest got dropped and it was bent and it wasn't really right to start with, but I was still making it work. So I ordered a brand new one of those. It came Friday, so I've got to get it set up and ready to go. I haven't done any Scandi grinds for a while, or very few because of that. But yeah, we're just kind of setting up. I don't know if you guys know, I kind of brought Heat Treat back in shop. Really had some poor experiences over the last few years, and so I was like, screw it. Bought a Dewar, built some stuff, and I'm actually moving that from the very back of the shop to the front a little further forward, so it's just easier to use. And like in the very back of the shop, it slopes downhill so you can drive in to the, so it'll be more level and easier to work. That's really about it. No, we're always working on putting new models in the CNC, because seems to be a never-ending project, getting CAD done for existing models, tuning them up where we want them, and then fixturing them up and all that kind of crap.
CAD CAM is a lot of time.
Yeah, dude, I don't do it, but yeah, constantly, daily, all day, every day, it seems like it's getting done in the shop. But we're getting more and more of our models where we're able to rough them, do the profiles and the rough grind and handle work on the mill, which really does help a lot with production.
I'm sure so. And I think you guys are probably figuring out your workflow and then being able to plan it. Are you planning ahead and being like, this is the model we can want to have come out 3 weeks from now or something?
It never works, but I mean, in theory, that's what we're trying to do, but
you'll get
it's like we wanted to do the Magnum Hunter for hunting season. And by the time we get it done, it's going to be after hunting season, but maybe we were thinking for next year,
Yeah, that sounds like the Tim Reeve plan.
Yeah, and I mean, like right now we're working on alpha parts, right? That's the big project we're working on, but at the same time we have to run stuff in between to keep the shop running. So
yeah,
We did make alpha parts. The last show I took 2 alphas that were totally parts were made on the mill, which is kind of cool. Still a lot of work, and I was able to make them work, but we have to tune them just a little bit. Like the detent hole was slightly in the wrong place. I was able to leave the balls out a little further than normal and flatten them, and that allowed me to, because they had a little bit of wiggle right the way I normally do it. So by leaving the ball out just a few thousandths more and flattening it, put a flat spot on it, made it the diameter bigger, so it worked. But we're real close. We're just, there's a lot of fine tuning and stuff that goes into it, and it's all work effort on the back side makes it easier on the front side when we're making them.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into that people don't see. They see the grinder photos, they see the, this grid or this handle, there's a shitload of it that goes into it that you just don't see.
Yeah, and I do pictures every morning, right? That's kind of what I've started doing, and you try not to show the stuff that's not sexy because nobody cares.
Yeah, no one wants to see a picture of me staring at a computer, scratching my head.
Right.
And there's a lot of stuff going on in the shop constantly, but it's been fun.
So Tom, the integration of the CNC into your workflow, that's gone the way you hoped. I mean, obviously, a lot of those kind of things are more work than you anticipate, and different challenges than you can see up front because not having done it before. But is that it's bearing fruit? It sounds like it's getting you some of the improvements that you were looking for.
It has for a while, but I think, and this is how it should be, we should be making progress constantly, right? The first couple of years we had it, I had a different employee, and we made parts on the machine, but it wasn't done how I wanted it, right? So we weren't using the fixture system that I wanted, which is really repeatable and badass. And the operator we had, a lot of times, for him, he got caught up in the whole cycle speed. It was all about, man, I can make this part in 2 minutes. And he didn't give a shit if it took me 20 minutes to finish it, right?
Right.
As far as like like the thumb serrations, right? Or one, whatever. And now I've got a guy that works, he understands, right? He gets what I'm saying. We had to refixture everything. Everything is being fixtured properly now. And the cycle time doesn't really matter. It matters more how much time it saves me. So like we're doing tabless now, which makes a huge difference. You don't have to try to blend the tabs in. And if you're making the handles on the mill too, it just saves a lot of work.
Right.
We've put a lot of time, effort, and thought into how to get a better finish around the edges. And we're doing that with tooling and stuff. And then just like, we drill the thumb serrations and then we go around them. And then we've learned ways like to get a better finish. Literally the finish it's almost done by the time they come off the mill. Yeah, they take twice as long, but they're literally 5 times faster when they get to me, which for me, it's all about me time because I only have certain time, I'm the bottleneck.
Bottleneck, bobblehead, whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, the machine, by the time we get it paid off, we'll probably be understanding it a little bit and finding ways to use it more efficiently. But it's constantly one of those things. It's like you slap yourself in the face over and over every week. Yeah. Why didn't I think of that? Why aren't we doing it this way? Kind of thing,
Yeah.
So it's a challenge.
I think being able to produce parts that have an appropriate amount of finish step time on its own is a great spot to be, right? That's where you have to be for it to make it worth it. And then from there, right? Every industry does that, right? We call it continuous improvement, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you can finish 5 times more knives than I can finish in a week on the machine.
That doesn't help.
It does. Yeah, they just stack up and they're more work. So I'd rather finish closer to what I'm able to finish per week, maybe a little more, but cut my time down where we can actually finish a few more, and that makes sense.
Exactly.
But
Yep. What about Okay, so for this year, Kentucky's it. You got shows over the winter that you're planning, Tom?
Not really yet. No. It all depends on what happens with COVID, and it's kind of a weird thing. I would like to do some like trunk type shows, but it all depends on what we can and can't do. I don't know. At this point, it still feels up in the air. It's weird because around here, nothing really changed. As far as for a few weeks last year we were shut down, but other than that, you go in the bank and they wear a mask. It's weird. Seems like so many places have the plexiglass now and they still wear masks. So I don't know. As I get older, it's more frustrating because I can't hear a damn thing. So when you have the plexiglass and the mask, it's like, I just need to learn sign language, I guess.
Type it out on your phone and hold it up to the glass.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it really is dependent on next year's shows, and trunk show type things are dependent on what happens.
Yeah.
Sadly.
I think everybody's in that boat to some degree.
So we're kind of in a holding pattern until after kicks.
Yeah.
As far as planning.
What about you, Michael? What do you got? I know you got some, I'm going to call them development projects over the winter.
Yeah, I'm excited to hit that mosaic piece again that I'd started for AIM. It was interesting to learn. I went into it thinking, I don't know if I want to do mosaic. I asked Esposito because I don't want to step on anyone's toes or anything like that. He was like, they've been doing it for 2,000 years. Don't worry about it. Then I went into it trying to find a pattern that I haven't seen. And it's interesting. Once I started doing that, I really started seeing a lot more mosaics out there as far as like other makers. And I see a lot of like the Jürgen Stenau type of linear mosaic stuff with the mother of pearl. And the first one I did, I did a pattern that was a little too tight. I thought the interlocking would be interesting, but you actually saw like a visual representation of like stacking tolerances as, one would not quite fit as tight as you could feel or whatever. And then the next one, it would shift the whole thing out. So I spent a lot of time, backing up, putting together, cracking some, and then just finally did it. It just, I even got as far as putting them into their little titanium inlay, and it didn't cut it. So I revisited it, did a new pattern, got a bunch of pieces cut out. I just have to, get those done, and I think that's going to be a fun winter project. And I've even been thinking about how to index them so that I can get both sides as mosaics to line up.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I really want to kind of bookmark those, which is tough because you're doing these little tiny mother of pearl inlays, but I'd like to be as close as possible.
Yeah.
And I think I got it figured out, but who knows? It's part of it.
Is that a piece you would look to target for AIM next year?
It'll probably just be a, wintertime, late winter open bid.
Yeah.
Something like that. Because I'm interested to see how that would do in the open market versus a closed market.
Yeah.
And who knows? You never know how shit goes sometimes. But I'm interested in that. I went back and forth again. I get also the urge to cook up Damascus stuff again. I've got a press. I need to get a cylinder for it. I'm like, maybe I ought to make some Damascus this winter. But it starts adding up. I'd have to get a new welder, redo my forge. It's mainly for heat treating. I haven't really set it up for all the shit that comes with Damascus, which is kind of corrosive to the inside of the forge sometimes. But it just sounds interesting. It goes back to that sole authorship, Yeah. Damascus is fun. A lot of time.
I think you should do it.
It's just, it's a lot of time, but it sure is fun, man. And there's so many people making so many great patterns out there. Sometimes you're like, is it worth it? Would anyone care?
Yeah.
Would you get your money back out of it? I don't know. I really don't. Because it would not be cheap knives if I put my own Damascus blade on it.
Would you enjoy the process?
The process is fun. It's kind of like Hamon.
So who cares?
It's kind of like,
as far as making your money, sole authorship, I'm sure you would.
That's the thing is, would someone, is there a return on that investment? Who knows?
Maybe mental health and monetary. I don't know.
It could be.
Doing some projects because you like them or want to do them, I think is healthy, like mental health. I think it helps when you do future stuff, and I think your customers understand that and they're willing to pay for it. I've seen that this last year, and it's been kind of crazy. It's blown my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also like a sense check though, right? There's a guardrail on that. Yep, I want to do this project because I think I would enjoy it and it's good for me and I think my customers might buy it. And there's a limit somewhere, right? That's I think a challenge is figuring out where that limit is, where, okay, this took so much time that I can't recover from it. Right.
Tools make sense financially though, as far as taxes too. I mean, sometimes.
That's true.
I mean,
yeah.
I'd rather buy new tools than send the government money.
Yeah.
That is true.
There's an angle to tools. There's not an angle to Birch spends 120 hours getting nowhere,
right.
Or, you know what I mean?
But he's going to do that anyways.
That is true. I will waste time with those.
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, and I think that's part of the artistic creative process too, which I think is cool. And I wish I could do more of. I really do respect what you do there.
It's I have some stuff, but yeah, you gotta get there's a lot of stuff that goes, probably more than people think, that goes into making Damascus as far as like the tools you need and shit like that. But yeah, man, it is fun.
I look forward to the pitch to the director of financial instruments at Birch Tree Blade Works LLC. I'll be sure to Skype in for that one.
Yeah, she knows who. I mean, we've been married quite a bit now. She knows how I am, and she knows the weird shit I get into.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and you don't have to buy it all at once either. So
if I want to start making, I sure shit do.
Yeah, but even if you don't build it right now, if you start buying tools in a year, you'll be set up or something, I don't know. I bought a forge 6 years ago. I've never set it up yet. Someday I will.
Really? Well, you might have to buy it for me.
Yeah, there you go.
No, that's not how it works.
There you go. Yeah, Tom, but squirrel.
Oh, yeah, true.
That factor too somewhere in there. This has been a running one though.
That one's been baking in my mind for a while. Yeah. It just I miss doing the Damascus. It's fun. It's kind of like seeing you can have an idea of the pattern that you can make, and it's endless. The patterns are endless, especially like with mosaics. What you start making in a can, and there's no limit on what kind of design you can do.
Yeah, really cool.
But they are harder too. That's lots of possibilities of inclusions and stuff like that. But
all right, what about shows in the future, Michael? What are you looking for? You got anything over winter once we get past the November timeframe?
No. Once I'm in winter, I'm kind of stuck in winter. Won't emerge until springtime.
Right.
Generally how I roll, kind of get my weirdness and stick with it till I'm out.
Yeah. Well, maybe some of these projects can help a little bit with your winter weirdness.
Oh yeah. I am excited about the mosaic one. I might even try to hit up Halloween. I was kind of thinking about, I haven't done a Halloween folder in forever.
Yeah.
And I thought about kind of coming back from California and just kind of hitting one, seeing, nothing too crazy, but some fun inlay work and, maybe a model I already make, not try to go full on, hey, a whole new whatever, but, just some.
Right.
I got a fun project that I can't quite open up about, but collaboration that I'm excited to work on too. I told you about, but
yeah.
Very excited about that. That'll get me to get the design stuff flowing, and that always gets me going.
Yeah, for sure. Secret project will be fantastic once it is. I'm making my SpongeBob magic rainbow fingers once it's revealed.
That idea of taking someone else's design aesthetic and mixing it with your own, I get excited getting to design that, because that's like a challenge you get to do. of let's see what we can do to blend the two. It's like when I did the McGinnis one, it's like, let's blend them together and see if you can make it look cool with both of them in there.
Yep. Yeah, this one will be great. Okay, we'll stop talking about stuff we can't talk about. Yeah. All right, so winter stuff. What usually we touch briefly at least on cool things we've seen around the web lately or whatever. It's been a little while. Sean and I did some of that. That's when we talked about that nylon takedown, was during this part of the mini-sode. So if you haven't heard that, go back and check that out. I wanted to mention one. This isn't actually really completely knife stuff, although it is a friend of ours from the knife community. There's a guy named Keith McClendon. And Keith is in the poultry business, but Keith is a true barbecue and foodie. Like, he's a connoisseur of the barbecue world to an extreme that I only aspire to.
Oh, dude, he's an aficionado.
He is a superhero barbecue connoisseur. So I think his Instagram feed is super, super fun to watch. It makes my mouth water. Every one of his pictures. I'm constantly hungry. I got to not look at Keith's feed unless I can eat sometime in the near future, because he hits some amazing spots. I think he travels a lot for work and for fun, and the combination of those two turns into road food to the extreme.
Yeah, but not in like a paid way, but like in a, this is legitimately good.
Like he truly loves it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Love of the game, man.
Absolutely. And Keith is just such a cool guy. Anyway, what a sweetheart of a guy to talk to. His wife is lovely too. Just nice people. So it's really fun to kind of follow along on his culinary adventures. And so his Instagram is Plucker, Pluckr. And so go check Keith out. He's got amazing food pictures. He'll make you drool if you like barbecue. And not just barbecue. Nice. He splinters off into other stuff too, but the barbecue is what gets me every time.
Nice.
He's got some cool stuff on there. Keith's got some nice knives. He's a collector of some knives from our friends in West Tennessee kind of area. He's also just recently got a Nick Rossi folded friction folder, which is really, really cool. At least I think he just recently got it, but he got that in there recently in his Instagram feed. So knives and foods, hard combo to beat.
Oh, yeah.
What about you guys? Got anything cool that you want to point out?
I've got one on Instagram.
Go ahead, Tom.
And I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but it's Kookman Knives. Have you guys seen his page? I just sent a link.
Okay.
It's KUCMA.
His name looks familiar.
Knives. So he does kitchen knives, and his Instagram feed is really cool because he like does drawings and then does the knives.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think he's in Europe. But yeah, really, really kind of cool stuff. And if you go to his website, it's pretty reasonable. So, but I like his artwork, and like he'll put up a drawing and then he'll make the knives and that kind of stuff. It's really kind of cool.
His drawings are fantastic.
Right?
Yeah, neat. Looks like it's like Francine etching, kind of artistic etching stuff. Is it what's going on?
Right.
It looks like.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Neat.
So yeah, kind of a cool page to follow, and seems to be doing good work. I don't actually own one of them, but it's one of the sites that caught my eye.
Very nice, very nice. Sean, what about you? Usually good for some kind of special find.
Man, I've been out of the loop since we did the mini, and I kind of caught my shot there.
Yeah. That Nylon Knives, definitely check their stuff out. They got some beautiful, beautiful knives, and that takedown was super, super cool. But lots of other things to check out there. They're also listeners to the show, so high five to the Nylon guys for talking to me here recently. They listened to the show and claim to enjoy it, which is a bold claim. No, we appreciate everybody who listens to the show, but that was a nice conversation I had with them.
Oh, I will shout out Dave Brown, because it looks like he's doing more trenchers, and everybody should be checking those out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those look cool.
Dave's always got cool stuff going on. Creative dude. Creative dude. What about you, Michael? You got anything you want to point out or talk about that you saw that was cool?
I've been seeing a lot of traditional Japanese stuff, and then you start seeing it. So I've been seeing a lot of subas, a lot of blades, a lot of like the great sword being profiled, and it's hard. I love seeing those. I think we've talked about IQ Knives before, but I genuinely enjoy that account. It's just IQ Knives, but he's got not a ton of photos on there, but they're the greats, and they're great photos, great videos of, you know, how these things operate or shown. I love that account. And then I've been seeing a lot of kitchen knives, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Don Newman Knives. I think these are some of the coolest kitchen knives as far as like the looks and the functionality. He's got sculpting that he does on it, paper thin little tapered tangs, and just a very kind of geometric handles. I sent a link to you guys there. It's, you know, DONNGUYEN knives.
Oh yeah, those are nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Almost very Euro is what it makes me think of. That might not be fair, but you know what I mean? Very angular.
Well, it's hard not to associate those types of handle shapes and the more with the, you know, very European type stuff.
Yeah. Oh, they're gorgeous.
Look at that tapered tang.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Paper thin.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, good call, Michael. Very pretty knives. I'll have to check those out.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, I like that he's not afraid of the macro, too.
Nope.
Zoomed way in on things like plunges and other stuff.
No, he likes to show the details, and I love seeing details.
Yeah.
You know, it seems to me like the traditional type of wall handle. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I see a lot of the guys do that, but then they'll still do the old school way of kind of leaving the tang open or out a little bit, which, you know, that used to be for reasons, because I was talking to Nick Rossi about that. I was like, why do you see some of these out there? It's like, well, it was done because if you needed to pound it back, you had room left there to. And I was like, so that's something that's not necessary anymore because we have modern ways of making stuff. I was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, let's get them snug up in there.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good call. Good feed to follow for sure. Sean, you just sent us one. You want to talk about this one, or is this something you came across recently?
Yeah, forgot about it, and I can't let this pass. It's a fella by the name of Ford Hallam. I believe he's in Europe, England. Yeah. And his Insta is Ford Hallam, and that's FORDHALLAM _metal_artist, and tons of work in progress pictures of Subas. And he's a master goldsmith and a Japanese metalwork specialist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, just some really outstandingly cool work in progress stuff.
Crazy stuff.
Very kind of Kelso, you know, same, very organic, loves the nature themes and man, that's amazing.
Yeah, neat.
Yeah, so I mean, I was wrong. There was one that I happened upon.
Yeah.
Liar.
I only do it to keep in practice.
He's holding out to the end. He wanted to be the finale. That grand flourish in the graduation march music in that last episode got his attention.
Mm-hmm. Now he's educated.
Yes. Fancy lad. Okay. Well, good discussion. Lots of things we kind of talked a long way around the barn. Unfortunately, this happens all the time, and it seems like it's happened a whole bunch lately. We've had some folks in the community pass away, and we wanted to mention some of them here. Ron LaBella from the Jersey Devil, maybe the guy, the Jersey Devil himself, unfortunately has passed here recently. I don't know, Michael, if you want to add something to that.
About Ron?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I feel like you said it's happening way, way too much these days. And this goes back to like the old school, you know, forum days. But yeah, Jersey Devil used to be I haven't been on it a long time, but pretty popular forum. And he started it, and you've told some stories about him at the New York City show.
Yeah.
Would you tell us about what you told us not long ago?
Oh, I think there's always been a rivalry between the USN guys and the Jersey Devil crew, and I just remember Ron being at the show. We had dinner with him a couple times too. He joined us in a big group. He and a couple of his friends for dinner a few times. And so there was lots of ball busting going on, which was really fun, including like some congratulating us on what beautiful forum flare we were wearing from the USN, which was a classic ball busting move. So yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't afraid of that at all.
No. But I think Paulie was there at his service. So
I saw that.
Yeah. So rest in peace, Ron. And then another guy that I think was certainly close to Sean. I knew he and his wife, Michael and Tom, I think knew him in passing at least. And that's Mark Key. And
right.
With all this crazy flooding that happened in Waverly, Tennessee. And Sean, you want to speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Mark's passing hit really close to home. He was family to us. I mean, we had known him for a while. He was one of Kane's best friends in the industry. And to be honest with you, I could go on and on. So I've prepared a little bit of a eulogy, just a little something to gather my thoughts and keep it short and sweet. And I'm going to put it out there and let that be where it is. Mark Key was my friend and truly a knife maker's knife maker. His fixed blades were functional art, and it was apparent in his designs that he strove for perfection. His knives were an honest working tool with a look that was all Mark. As great as he was as a knife maker, he was an even better friend. Those of us who got to call Mark a friend were blessed because we've known true friendship. Mark treated his friends like family, and he treated his family well. It makes me happy when I think of how close he and my son Kane were. Mark called Kane little brother, and you could tell he meant it. I couldn't have asked for my son to have a better big brother. We're lessened by his passing. Rest in peace, Mark. You will be missed, my friend.
Very well said.
His family lost everything. Their house was actually found 500 yards down the road from where its foundation was. Wow. If anybody would like to have information on how to donate directly to the family, message me on Facebook Messenger, and I will gladly give you the PayPal info for that, because they definitely have a burden. They've got a life they need to rebuild.
Yeah. Wow. Yep, for sure. Tragic loss, no doubt. And as you could hear in Sean's voice, right, someone close to many of us and a special person for sure. So, all right. I think that's it for the show. We appreciate everybody listening. We appreciate all of our Patreon supporters and our folks that have stuck with us here now. 72 episodes, which is mind-boggling to me.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. We're going to have balloons and confetti at 100. I don't know, something. We got to do something fun for our 100th episode. We'll figure that out, but
we'll set something on fire.
Or maybe we'll set the balloons and confetti on fire. Balloons filled with hydrogen or something fun.
Nice.
Just do trash bags. Why stop at a balloon?
Yeah, come on.
Little static electricity.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I get your historical reference there. Picking up what you're laying down. All right, so yeah, we appreciate everybody listening along with us and everybody supporting us on Patreon. You guys keep the wheels on the bus here and keep it moving, and we appreciate you. And George, as Michael mentioned early in the show, George has been with us for a while now. We really appreciate that. It's his support of the show also helps keep this all rolling, and that's awesome. So
appreciate it.
Yeah,
lots of fun projects on the list here with people and interviews and topics and other stuff. So lots more to come on Mark of the Maker. So thanks everybody for sticking with us, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks all.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks, folks.
To learn more about our makers, you can find Tom Crine on the web at crineknives.net, in his Facebook group Crine Knives, or in his Instagram account at Crine Knives. For Michael Birch, check birchtreeblades.com, Facebook group Birch Tree Blade Works, or Michael's Instagram at birchtreeblades. For myself and the Raygun Bead Project, we're on the web at raygundivision.com. We have a Facebook group called Raygun Division, or my personal Instagram at msteiner. For those interested in photos, references from the show, or some discussion about the show itself, you can find us on the web at markofthemaker.com, in a Facebook group called Mark of the Maker, or on our Instagram at Mark of the Maker. Last but not least, the ultra cool and haunting background music we use for the show is a piece called Noir Guitar by Stevie's Amp Shack, found at the Free Music Archive and licensed under Creative Commons CC BY 4.0. Thanks for listening.